they can come into conflict depending on the way that we interact with them. So let's just go through, I made some notes here about the astrological impacts of Jupiter, of Saturn, and a very, very important point. The ancients, and of course still today, in Western astrology I'm talking about, Vedic astrology coming out of India, would read this in a slightly different way, maybe even a very different way. But this is Western astrology I'm talking about. And they break up the heavens into segments which the planets move through. And we call these star signs. And very significantly, if you look at what is said to be the energetic nature of that area called Aquarius, Jupiter and Saturn are coming into this alignment in that area of the heavens known as Aquarius. And Saturn enters Aquarius first, and then just before the winter solstice, Jupiter follows. So let's look at Jupiter first. This is the astrological reading of the energetic effect of Jupiter. Jupiter is a planet of plenty and seeks insight through knowledge. Some of this planet's key words include morality, gratitude, hope, honor, and the law. Jupiter is a planet of broader purpose, reach, and possibility. Jupiter has generally been associated with good luck and bounty, optimism and growth, including mental and spiritual growth. Jupiter is associated with a sense of humor, goodwill, and mercy. The more negative manifestations of Jupiter include blind optimism, excess and overindulgence, irresponsibility that results from blind optimism, not ill will, can be displayed. So that's a kind of an expansive, it's the sort of thing you were just talking about, Gaz, that you've heard the effect of this is going to be. And then you've got Saturn. Saturn is associated with restriction and limitation. Where Jupiter expands, Saturn constricts. And as one astrologer I was watching this week said, Jupiter says yes, Saturn says no. Saturn energy is associated with limitation, restrictions, boundaries, practical reality, which is a very positive aspect of Saturn. If you are like, expansive and off with the fairies and not got your feet on the ground, and you say we want change, well, without the feet on the ground, the practicality represented by Saturn energy, okay, you want to change? Okay, yeah. So how are you going to do it? How are you practically going to do it? And this is why these energies are about balance and getting the best of both and not going off just dominated by one in a state of imbalance, whether it's fierce authoritarian control or whether it's off with the fairies. So Saturn energy is associated with authority, and that's why the global cult is so obsessed with it, or one reason. And I noted this, the first century poet Manilius described Jupiter as temperate and benign, and the greater benefic. Benefic comes from the Greek term meaning good doer. Jupiter was regarded as warm in nature and therefore favorable to life. But Manilius, by contrast, dubbed Saturn as sad, morose, and cold, and the greater malefic. Malefic in this context meaning a planet believed to bring bad luck and misfortune to those born within its area of impact. So you've got this alignment of energies which are basically very different. And you can go that way with Saturn. That's where we've been all the way through 2020. The Saturn energy, a look, control, imposition, authority. Or you can go with the Jupiter energy, which is very different, or you can balance the two so that you can demand change, but also have the practicality of how that change is made manifest. And then we come to Aquarius. Now, somebody like me, who grew up in the 60s, I was born in 52, but my teenage years were in the 60s. We were brought up with the age of Aquarius, the dawning of the age of Aquarius. There was a song by a group called Fifth Dimension, which was about that. And the words said, reflecting Aquarian energy astrologically, harmony and understanding, sympathy and trust abounding, no more falsehoods or derisions, golden living dreams of visions, mystic crystal revelation, and the mind's true liberation. Aquarius, Aquarius. So it went. And so the astrological reading of the Aquarian energy is the visionary, change, new ideas, optimism, freedom, and rebellion. So you can see all these things coming in. And what the heavens are doing is reflecting human society, cause and effect. We're talking about again, because what we are looking at is exactly this situation where you've got authority wishing to impose its will more and more fiercely and fascistically, and that now you've got more and more people saying, we're not having it, we want freedom, we want change that leads to freedom. 2021 is going to be a year of enormous upheaval and challenge, as the demand for freedom meets the agenda of total control. And an astrologer I was watching this week said of Aquarius, the blinders are, and this whole great conjunction, the blinders are going to be taken off the collective, and we are going to see more truth than we've seen in a very long time. Yes. And Aquarius is about new beginnings and change. And this is where I would add a note of caution. Because what is the change that the cult wants? It wants the great reset. That is change. And it's not freedom. It's the very opposite of freedom. And because this inner circle of the cult is so aware of these astrological energies and their effect, it is going to seek to channel demand for change, not least in the woke mentality, into a change that suits the cult. And it's up to those that can see it to demand freedom in its true sense, and also to cease to cooperate with anything that seeks to take that freedom away. So it's going to be an interesting year, because these energies represented by this conjunction are not just in a moment. If people think everything's going to change in a moment, that's not the way it works. It starts a flow which starts to change things, but over a period. And the astrologers are talking about the fact that the effect of this and the cycle that it starts is going to go on for years, and indeed over a long period, even 200 years. If you see how they're pointing out that Saturn and Jupiter and what's going to happen over that 200 years with them. So it's going to be interesting, to say the least, to see what happens and to impact on what happens during 2021 and beyond.
You mentioned at the start about a great catastrophe with Saturn, where Saturn was a twin sun. What's the ancient accounts of that?
Well, this is fascinating. I've written about this at length in the books because it's very significant, very, very significant. You can see in the books of people like Immanuel Velikovsky, who wrote extensively kind of in the 1950s and that period, about what he said was a great catastrophe in the heavens, where there was basically a redrawing of where many planets were and the cycles that they were on. And in the more and in the more modern world, I would recommend the work of David Tolbert, who's a researcher in America, and he wrote a fabulous book. Unfortunately, unfortunately, the last time I looked, it wasn't in print, and the cost of buying one it was very, very high. It's a book that should be back in print, and it's called The Saturn Myth. And what David did was go all over the world to all these ancient cultures, and in all parts of the world, the different continents, and he looked at what these ancient beliefs and legends said about Saturn. And the common themes were extraordinary. And from that, he's able to explain what so much ancient symbolism really means that wasn't clear before. And if you go on the internet, you can see a YouTube video, or a series of them, I think, by David Tolbert about what happened in the not fantastically distant past, not hundreds or tens of thousands of years ago, much more recently, where Saturn and the sun that we know now were a twin sun system for the Earth. And when you looked up from the Earth, Saturn was actually the prime source of light. And even today, Saturn, like Jupiter, gives off more energy that it receives from the sun. But Saturn went through this catastrophe, which I could say detail in the books, whereby there was a massive upheaval in the heavens. There was a big interaction, not least electrical interaction between Mars and the Earth. And the Earth just about held on. And when you look at the ancient descriptions of this happening, they are again compelling in their common themes of amazing upheavals on the Earth when the Earth nearly died. There is a book I read a long time ago by two researchers called When the Earth Nearly Died, in which they looked at the geological and biological evidence to be found on the Earth now, and compared that with the ancient myths and legends talking about this catastrophe, and the two sync perfectly. And so if we go back to the astrology, if you've got Saturn much closer to the Earth than it is now, and you've got all these impacts on the field of these planets that were in different positions then when this catastrophe happened and everything rearranged itself, then the nature of the field would have changed. Of course it would. Because the impact on the field of the planets would have changed because they were in different positions and therefore affecting it in different ways. So there was a shift at that time in the consciousness, if you like, of the Earth, which would have impacted on the consciousness of humanity. And when you read ancient accounts, humanity before then was a different humanity to what it's become. Anyway, this explains why Saturn was such a focus in the far ancient world and continued to be so through myths and legends. Because instead of being where it is now, who would have focused on Saturn where it is now in the ancient world? Instead of where it is now, it was right there as a sun for the Earth. And as a result, obviously, became the focus, became a god. And this continued with examples like the god of Rome was Saturn, and Kronos, the Saturn god of Greece, El, the Saturn god of Judaism. So the world is not like we think it is. And a lot has happened that we're not being told about. And I hope and trust that humanity is now entering what some of these astrologers are actually calling the age of Aquarius, which made me laugh because they were talking about that in the 60s, that this was the age of Aquarius, we're just going into it. But they're saying, well, actually, many of them are saying, oh, yeah, this is now the age of Aquarius. Well, whatever. I trust that we're entering an age where even more of the veil is going to lift, and people are going to realize not only that their history is bunkum in the way that they've been told, but their perception of the self and the world they've been told is also bunkum and has been written precisely to keep them in a state of ignorance, which allows the cult to violin the many and therefore dictate their lives. We are now entering an era. Now the cults come into the room and becomes more and more undeniable to more and more people. Now we have a chance to unravel this and bring an end to this cult's manipulation of human society, which goes back thousands and thousands of years. And it's going to be interesting watching it unfold.
Hey, the people, this Saturn thing is crazy. Crazy. As someone commented yesterday on the video before this, and I told them I was researching, I typed in Saturn God on Google, and what came up was absolutely crazy, people. Crazy to say the least. All I see is naked man, this naked hella man with a small child eating, literal eating. People, this is I'm not even laughing, people. This is just crazy. And these are the images, these are the things, these are the beliefs these people control the world as. These type of belief, these type of actions. Hence why the world is like how it is. Evil, dark, corrupt, cold, no love, no sympathy. That's why it is like it is, people. Because there's no way this man is a so-called God. God of Saturn. God of Saturn. What is this? Who draw this picture? Alright, that is it, people. That show you. People just, the artists who drew this, I made this depiction. He wasn't coming from a place of like, I'm just imagining something. It's what he was seeing. Well, he was seeing what was prevalent at the time. So these are the guys, people. These are the rulers. These are the power breakers. Damn, man. Crazy. Absolutely crazy.